Hello, welcome back to Keto Corner. Today we're going to talk about 3 more ways in which you can practice keto and intermittent fasting more therapeutically. The first one is the eating window. So I talked about last time going down to 2 meals a day and eating those within an 8-hour window. But today I would like to tell you kind of my history. So I went to 2 meals a day almost right away because I was premenopause when I started this. So I jumped in at 2 meals a day. So I had a coffee around 10 in the morning that has MCT oil in it, and it has some cream in it, and it has collagen, and it also has gelatin in it. And so I take these things for a number of reasons. The MCT oil really makes my brain light up. It gives me a lot of mental productivity. And the collagen and the gelatin help my gut and my joints feel good and my skin. So I really like using those things. But I noticed now I am in menopause. So menopause is that 12-month period where you stop having cycles. And so it's not post-menopause yet, so I'm in the thick of it right now. And I noticed interesting things happening, and I thought, I wonder if I dropped down to a 4-hour eating window, if that would help. And it turns out that it did. I wondered if I would like it. I thought, wow, eating 2 meals within a 4-hour window, will I be hungry again in 4 hours? And yeah, it's worked out really well. Now, one of the meals tends to be smaller than the other. Usually my first meal is a little smaller, and then I eat with the family. So right now I would have my coffee at like 10, and I would have lunch or a breakfast at 1, and then dinner at 5. And that seems to be working really well. It's very therapeutic. So it would be nice. So all of my carbohydrates then are within that 4-hour window. And I want to say, just about the macros in terms of insulin, that carbohydrates cause insulin to pulse into your bloodstream at a very high rate, the highest. And whereas protein does cause insulin to pulse into the bloodstream, but not as much. It's a moderate level. It's more manageable. And then fat really doesn't cause insulin to pulse hardly at all. So fat is kind of very neutral in terms of insulin. So my coffee, the thing that it has mostly in it is fat. And so I haven't dealt with changing up my coffee. I might, but I really like how it's working for me right now. But it is something to consider. Some people would call it a meal because it does have a considerable amount of calories. But like I said, it is working for me right now. So all my carbohydrates are coming, or most of them I should say, are coming in those 2 meals that I have later in the day. So I just want to say that. The thing to do if I become concerned is I will start testing. I will test my blood glucose. I will test my ketones before the coffee, after the coffee, and further discern if I need to change anything up there. So, and with that, I just want to say a little bit about cravings. I think looking at your eating window and the number of meals you have a day, you want to get to a place where you're not experiencing cravings. You don't want food to be on your mind all the time. So, and that's when you'll know that you've found a happy place. Now, some things that can factor into cravings, I would say at the top of the list is just nutrition. If the food you're eating is not nutrient dense, I think it's very likely that you're going to experience some cravings. The other thing I want to suggest is that if your digestion is off, digestion has to be good in order for your body to assimilate the nutrients. So if you have gut dysbiosis, if you have leaky gut, if you have autoimmune issues, chances are your gut, if you've gone through cancer, if you've gone through any kind of, a lot of medications affect the gut microbiome. So this is something you want to work on. And try to make that as strong as it possibly can be. And then fasting. There seems to be, I think there's a happy place with fasting and cravings. And that varies from person to person. So it's kind of by trial and error that you find your happy place. So the next thing I want to talk about is 1 meal a day, also known as OMAD. So the idea of consuming one big meal a day, and that could even be at noon, it could be a dinner meal, it could be whenever it works for you. But one meal a day is done by a lot of different people. There are whole Facebook groups. There are people on Instagram that are promoting this and having a lot of success. I have never lived that lifestyle. Like I said, my eating window is 4 hours. And I don't really suggest jumping into one meal a day long term. I suggest using it as a tool, at least initially. But I will say that folks who are really overweight, like by 50 pounds, anybody who really thinks that to get into the normal BMI realm would need to lose 50 pounds, one meal a day can be extremely therapeutic for these folks. And oftentimes women that are anywhere from the premenopausal stage to postmenopause have a lot of success doing one meal a day. Like I said, I suggest using it therapeutically first and see if you can find a happy place that way. So how would that look? Well, it might look like doing one meal a day, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends having 2 meals a day. I know a number of people who do that. Or another therapeutic way to use one meal a day would be to do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That way you have 3 days together where you're being very therapeutic, okay? And then you kind of ease up. You get to look forward to Friday and you're coming off the weekend. You don't dread Monday. So I think that's a great one. And you could practice this every week if you're really trying to work on weight loss, really trying to get rid of some symptoms. But you could transition to doing it every other week. And if you work yourself into it, in order to work yourself back out of a more restrictive place, you have to kind of take that slowly. So, so if you were doing this, let's say you did one meal a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you did it for 6 weeks. Okay, and then you wanted to back out of that, you might want to do every other week, something like that, and then get down to every 2 weeks. Okay, so that you're backing out of it slowly and your metabolism can sort of adjust as you go. Because the metabolism is something that you really want to be cognizant of. And so making quick movements in one direction or the other can impact metabolism. So, but that's a great way to use one meal a day. I will say at this point that so it's like a 24-hour fast, and anything over a 24-hour fast is considered an extended fast. And I do an extended fast once a week, and I do it for health reasons, and I do it for spiritual reasons. I always seem to have intense spiritual intentions that I really want to pray for, and I am still trying to improve health, still trying to improve insulin resistance in myself, and still seeing improvements. So I really like doing an extended fast once a week. So that would be another thing that you could do. You could do that. You could do the one meal a day, 3 days in a row. So there's a lot of different ways. You just kind of have to try things. You know, everybody has a different work schedule, a different life schedule, and you want it to work with your life so that you can be happy and content with it. The last thing I want to mention is carnivore. Carnivore is really popular. I did a week on carnivore. I have a video of that, and I'll put it at the end of this video so you could check it out if you want to. But I did carnivore for a week, and it was very interesting, and I did like it. So you can check that video out. So what is it? Well, some people will call carnivore, they will say that it's a zero carb or a animal-based way of eating. So these are very common phrases associated with carnivore, but you're basically eating meat, organ meat, bone broth, dairy, cheese, eggs, and salt. So these would be the key components of a carnivore diet. And some people make allowances. Like when I did it, I still, if I remember correctly, because it has been a while, but I'm pretty sure I still had coffee. You know, so some people will have coffee, some people will still have a little bit of chocolate, some people will use spice on their meats to give it, you can have a Mexican flavor or an Italian flavor, so you can have different, a lot more options, by being able to use different spices. And some people will include mushrooms, and mushrooms aren't really in the plant world, and they're definitely not in the animal world. So some people consider them sort of neutral, and they have a lot of benefits. So some people will include mushrooms in their carnivore diet. And now, so the thing is when would you want to use carnivore? Well, when I did it the week after Christmas. So it has been a while. But I loved it because Christmas is so hectic. You're doing all that baking and you're doing a lot of eating of the things that you bake. Now, granted, I actually ate all keto foods, but it's not normal for me to eat that many keto baked goods, for example, or keto desserts, or just eat that much prime rib. I just ate more because I was celebrating and I was feasting. So coming off of that, it was so nice because carnivore is easy. It is so easy. And that is one reason why a lot of people, especially men living on their own, love it. And men seem to do really well on carnivore. And women are just more hormonally sensitive, and it's a little different for women. There are women that are having a lot of success with it, I will say. I'm following some doctors and some nutritionists right now, and it's just it's interesting to listen to them. But anyway, so I used it the week after Christmas. It made my life so easy, and the bloating just went right away. And I was like, yes. So it was awesome in that regard. So after a vacation, after Easter, after Christmas, these are some really good times to do a week of carnivore, even on vacation, because of how easy carnivore is. Even on vacation can be a nice place to do carnivore. So those are some places where I have used it, and I did a week trial period of it to see, what it was like. And I did like it. It's very low in insulin, so you're never, because it's so low, almost zero carbohydrates, you're not having any high spikes in insulin. So if you have a really serious insulin problem, doing some carnivore could really help. Okay? And it's also very nutrient dense. One thing I just keep saying is that we need to get over some of the demonization of meat and animal-based products. Because they are actually very nutrient dense, and most people digest them very well. It's actually the plants that can cause more problems, because there's lectins and there's phytic acid and there's oxalates in the plant world. And so some people will actually use carnivore to get off of those vegetables, to get out of the plant world for a little bit in order to discern what might be causing their problem, whether it's headaches, or whether it's gut issues, bloating. So it's a good way. It's sort of an elimination diet where then you can sort of add back in the vegetables that are really working for you and maybe not consume any longer those vegetables that might be giving you some trouble. And, the whole thing about, this issue is that unfortunately, we Americans have just been eating too many processed foods, processed flour, processed oil, processed sugars, and too much sugar. And it's just caused a lot of problems in our gut. So now we're so super sensitive. So that's kind of just where we are. So it's really time to start working on our gut microbiome and starting to eat more nutrient-dense food. And nutrient-dense food tastes amazing. Keto is not a sacrifice for me at all. I am completely 100% content. I just tried a new recipe yesterday, and it's so good. I don't have any reason to be salivating over things that I know will make me feel awful. So anyway, that said, so when else could you use it? I think also, so after experiences like vacations or big long feast times where you're eating a lot of food like Christmas and Easter, I also think just coming off of weekends, sometimes a lot of people eat more, myself included. I eat more on the weekend. So coming off and doing carnivore on Mondays allows me, because my stomach is sort of stretched out, right? Allows me to still eat a good portion of food, but it's so low in insulin that it can kind of cut to the bloating a little faster. And so I really could see using it on Mondays. I could also see doing something similar as to what I said with 1 meal a day, where you would do carnivore on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's a more therapeutic way of eating, and then kind of open up more the other days of the week. And some people struggle with fasting. And so this could be a way to ease into fasting better, getting your insulin down. You know, if you have a lot of insulin resistance, and that would be anyone who's had any metabolic syndrome, so diabetes, and cancer, and heart disease, strokes, all of these things, you know, there's an insulin issue, you know, at the root of that. And so sometimes fasting can be a little tricky when you're in that place. It can be unpleasant. So one way to kind of ease into that is by using carnivore as a tool, and augmenting your getting into lowering your insulin levels and getting to a place where fasting, which is extremely therapeutic, you know, those hours where you're not eating are really important. And I always keep telling myself, I'm in the middle, I just started a 3-day fast. And, you know, the thing I'm always telling myself is the hours that you're not eating are so important. Your body is doing amazing things right now. Just drink that water, drink some water, you know, have a little bit of salt, Himalayan sea salt. That's what I use if I'm feeling off at all during my fast. And the fasting is so therapeutic. A lot of us have health things we need to work through, and the fasting part of this is extremely important. All right, the other time carnivore could be really great is if you're humming along and you're doing 2 meals a day, and then you have a stall. Well, you could use carnivore in that situation, and in the ways that I've already described. I don't really need to say any more about it, but if you have a stall, carnivore could help you to maybe break that stall. So that's it. That's the 3 things I wanted to mention for today. And there'll be one more video talking about how you could step up and do keto and fasting more therapeutically next week. So I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for visiting. Bye.